You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
She is just lying. Congresswoman accuses Kristi Noem of false statement on disaster cash by David McAfee. Congresswoman Deborah Ross of North Carolina accused Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem of deliberately withholding disaster relief funds and spending hundreds of millions on self-promotional contracts instead, and then of lying about her conduct. Appearing on MS Now, Ross alleged that approximately $80 million in previously appropriated relief funds were mysteriously released immediately after Senator Tom Tillis publicly criticized Noem's department for failing to disperse the money during the Senate Judiciary Committee hearing. The timing of the release of funding generally coincides with a congressional hearing, Ross stated, directly contradicting FEMA claim that the release timing was unrelated to the oversight pressure. She is just lying. Ross said Western North Carolina has endured 2 winters without sufficient disaster recovery funding despite Congress appropriating the money during the Biden administration. Meanwhile, she noted that Noem approved hundreds of millions in contracts for private jets and public relations for her department. "We shouldn't have to have a U.S. Senator come to you directly to get you to do your job," Ross said, characterizing the pattern as wasteful and potentially corrupt. The Congresswoman also addressed the ongoing partial government shutdown affecting DHS, revealing Democrats have proposed 2 paths forward: implementing guardrails on ICE and CBP operations to prevent constitutional violations, and separating those provisions from FEMA and cybersecurity funding. Republicans, she said, remain resistant to reining in the department or Trump.
Our analysis: the political farce at DHS, a critique. In a recent development that reeks of political maneuvering and gross mismanagement, Congresswoman Deborah Ross of North Carolina has thrown a spotlight on the dubious actions of Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. The accusations are grave: withholding disaster relief funds and funneling hundreds of millions into self-promotional contracts, followed by a blatant lie about the conduct. This is not just political theater, it's a tragedy in the making, underscoring the rot within the Department of Homeland Security DHS under Noem's stewardship. Withholding disaster relief, a calculated move? Ross's allegations, aired on MS Now, are damning. She claims that $80 million in previously appropriated relief funds were only released after Senator Tom Tillis publicly lambasted Noem's department. This isn't just an administrative oversight. It's a calculated move that played with the lives of those in Western North Carolina who endured 2 winters without sufficient disaster recovery funding. The timing of the funding release, suspiciously coinciding with a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing, raises questions about Noem's integrity and her department's operational ethics. FEMA denial of the release timing being related to congressional oversight doesn't just strain credulity, it snaps it in half. Ross's accusation that Noem is just lying isn't a mere political jab. It's a reflection of a deeply rooted problem within DHS, a problem of transparency, accountability, and basic human decency. The audacity of waste, self-promotional contracts over public welfare. Even more egregious is the allocation of hundreds of millions in contracts for private jets and public relations. In an era where public trust in government institutions is waning, Noem's actions are not just irresponsible, they're a slap in the face to those who have suffered from disasters and are in desperate need of support. The stark contrast between the immediate needs of disaster-stricken communities and the opulent spending on self-promotion paints a picture of a department gone rogue under Noem's leadership. A systemic failure, the partial government shutdown. The ongoing partial government shutdown further complicates the issue, with DHS at the center of a political standoff. Democrats, according to Ross, have proposed practical solutions, including implementing guardrails on IC and CBP operations to prevent constitutional violations. Yet, Republicans, seemingly in lockstep with Trumpian politics, have resisted any attempt to rein in the department. This resistance isn't just political stubbornness, it's a dangerous game that jeopardizes national security and the welfare of millions. Conclusion: a call for accountability. The situation at DHS under Secretary Kristi Noem is a stark reminder of the systemic errors plaguing our political system. It's not just about the misallocation of funds or the politicization of disaster relief. It's about the erosion of public trust and the flagrant disregard for the principles of governance. The allegations brought forth by Congresswoman Deborah Ross demand not just scrutiny, but immediate action. A thorough investigation into the conduct of Noem and her department is not just warranted, it's imperative. The manipulation of disaster relief funds, the wasteful spending on self-promotion, and the blatant lying are symptoms of a larger disease, a disease that can only be cured by a healthy dose of transparency, accountability, and a return to ethical governance. The citizens of Western North Carolina, and indeed all Americans, deserve better than the political farce currently unfolding at DHS. It's time for those in power to remember whom they serve, not their own interests, but the American people. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Raw's story for today's article, with the automated voices of Amy and Ryan. Thanks for listening.